Добрый вечер из Odessa. So greetings from Odessa on the shores of Black Sea. We're going to have a novel, at least different live stream this evening. I have it also running live here so I can see my Q&A and your comments as they come in. So today the theme is going to be winter in Ukraine, in Odessa in particular. What's the vibe like? I am filming this from a restaurant. It is a Bessarabian restaurant. That's the cuisine. That is the cuisine of Moldova plus part of Odessa Oblast, which is historically known as Bessarabia. So I'll be giving you a little bit of a sample of what that cuisine looks like in a minute. And because of the time difference with respect to the sunlight, and it's already dark here in Odessa, it gets dark around 4 p.m. It starts to get dark. I think sunset's 4:30. Decide to have a little bit later, have it indoors because it's wet and cold outside. But because of the electricity not being on 100% of the time in Odessa, it's better to do it in a restaurant. So at least I won't be in the dark in my apartment. So you're gonna have to excuse the noise in the background. Music, I hope it's not too bad. Write me a comment if it is not audible so that I know now rather than 20-30 minutes into the live stream. That's happened on one of them. So I'm going to be running you through all of that. Write your comments and your questions down below. I'll also be giving you an update on the negotiations with the Russo-Ukrainian war. As last week's live stream, which was highly requested, I ran through the 28 points of the proposal, and that is already moot. I can give you the too long didn't read version of that 2.5 hour. Okay, good. So Robert says it's tolerable, even though a bit loud. The new 19-point plan, and I will go a little bit into what is going on, since a lot of people, even the last week since I made that live stream, have written to me. And yeah, Robert knows the bots, the trolls, the pro-Russian crowd has arrived in. They actually left us alone last week on the live stream. They only started to write afterwards in the comments. It was kind of unusual. Normally they're just full writing retarded stuff, nonsensical comments while we have the live stream. But they left us alone last week. Let's see how it goes this week. Let me have my laptop down here, since the only outlet in this restaurant was over here in the corner. It's a bit far away. So I'm here in Odessa on the shores of Black Sea in Ukraine. It is November 30th today. And we have had in the last few weeks a lot of disruption with the electricity supply. There is a corruption scandal in Ukraine with some of the high-ranking officials, and some people close to President Zelensky have resigned. Some are under investigation for having siphoned off money that would have been allocated to protect the energy infrastructure. That's a big scandal in Ukraine in this time of war. We'll see what comes out of it, and whether those people will get very long jail sentences if it turns out they were guilty, because it's obviously a particularly odious form of corruption when you have a war and that money was supposed to go towards protecting the energy infrastructure. The result is that I have electricity in my apartment here in the center of Odessa. Maybe it's more than half the time, but it is disruptive. Like, I couldn't have this live stream up because I wouldn't be at home, because I wouldn't be sure that we would have electricity all the time. Then it goes dark, and it's going to be a bit hard to do the live stream. So that is the harsh part compared to normal. Obviously, we have curfew. You cannot be on the street in Odessa after midnight, from midnight to 5 a.m. I've made a lot of other live streams. I'm going to link them down. They're already down below in the description to this live stream, where I run through the safety of coming here to Ukraine, the logistics of coming, what's open, what's not. So I'll just work on that a little bit, add to it in this part of the live stream. So as you can see, I'm in a restaurant. We do have, just to deal with the overview, we do have Russian drone attacks regularly. They're not as bad here in Odessa, touch wood, as they've been in Kyiv. Kyiv is also a bigger city, about 5 times bigger, so it's also a little bit relative. Living here in the center, I can hear the anti-aircraft fire, but it hasn't been a bad attack since in the last month or so. Where I live in particular, there are other parts of the city that have been hit. So really the main difference is the electricity not being stable. So if you are coming here and you need to be sure, like with respect to maybe having connectivity for a live stream at home, then yeah, that would be an issue. If you're able to do it in a cafe like I am right now as an alternative, then I guess you're fine. Before I get into the meat and potatoes, it's not going to be meat and potatoes here, but I'm actually having something I love. Can I? You can see it's orange. I'm having the Seabuck Torrenti with orange. It's one of my favorite things to have here, especially when it comes to gets winter and cold. And actually, the first dish I've ordered is Mama Liga. So that is very common in Romania, Moldova, and in this part of Ukraine. As I said, the Moldova and Odesa Oblast, they were Bessarabian at one point, and this was the one of the national dishes. It's similar to Plăcintă, and yeah, it's cornmeal, and it's a staple in this region. I have it with 4 cheeses, so this is the first dish I ordered. This Bessarabian cuisine, you have a lot of stuff that is the same in Moldova. So you've got mitite, which is meat dish. It's very typical. Plăcintă. I'll order one of those later so you see it. So you can see the restaurants are open. As for a little bit of housekeeping, write your comments and your questions on any of these topics. If you're new to the channel, my name is Connor Klein, and I help high-level men living their best lives in this region. Obviously, we have the Russo-Ukrainian war, so it's not just Ukraine, it's the alternatives, which is what I've been helping my clients with the most since March 2022. So Moldova, Kazakhstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland. I may also go and cover Czechia at some point, on Romania, which I've been a few times, and I also made videos on this channel for Romania. Just depends how things evolve over the next year or two. There are a lot of links down below. As I said, the other live streams, if you are planning to come here to Ukraine, I used to have the biggest channel deal with lifestyle in Ukraine from 2020 to 2022. I was actually only in Ukraine. I documented and vlogged most of the countries. Like, not only have I been to almost every city, I have documented it in vlogs and advice videos, so it definitely was as a library the best resource if you're going to come and spend a lot of time here in Ukraine. Obviously, with the invasion in 2022, my clients have mainly been looking for alternatives, hence why I cover those other countries quite more than I do Ukraine at the moment. But I am here about half the time, and I do have clients who are coming back to Ukraine. So there are lots of the other live streams and links about coming and spending time in here, or the alternatives. You're going to find that all down below in the description to this live stream. Also, you can go and click around on my channel and you will find those. Some important resources. I have my guides for coming here to Ukraine and neighboring Moldova. You can get them down below. In particular, not just do they have logistical advice and cultural advice and staying safe advice, also they contain hospitality guides. So finding restaurants like this. This is called Mama Liga. This particular restaurant, but if you want to save yourself a lot of time, if you're coming to cities like Kyiv, Odessa, Chernovtsi, Uzhhorod, and Lviv, excuse me, for the Ukraine guide, then you can access my hospitality guide, which is in this guide, the insider's guide to coming to Ukraine during the Russo-Ukrainian war. Or you can go for the Moldova guide. A lot of guys buy that together because they're going to fly into Chisinau and come down here to Odessa. That I covered over 4 summers basically in Chisinau. I was in Chisinau last week again, updating the guide. So I went to literally, definitely over 100 places, and maybe it's even in the 100s, to bring you the best hospitality guide for Chisinau, the capital of Moldova, along with the 10 best vineyards. So save yourself a lot of time and help support, obviously, me making this content down below. Other links that are down there. I have a new program to help guys who are actually coming back to Ukraine, who are going to invest and maybe relocate. So that is called Ukraine from Destruction to Opportunity. It's still open for registration. It will start in a couple of weeks or so. And yeah, there's actually, if you go and you click the link, you can learn more about it. There's my presentation that I gave about 10 days ago. You can go check that out and learn more about it. So if you are serious about coming to Ukraine, you want to invest in some of the industries that are big here, like I had a request this week for agriculture industry, for a project, and for the defense industry, these are two of the biggest, and also buying real estate is the third that guys are looking at. Obviously, IT is a significant industry as well that attracts foreign investment, but the main two at the moment of what I got requests for this week's inquiries about. So investing in the agricultural business, this is the breadbasket of Europe, and obviously with the Russo-Ukrainian war, Ukraine, I guess it's the silver lining of this terrible war, has now become the leader, the pioneer in the West, the collective West, for national defense and the evolution of warfare. So there's a lot of interest in that. So go check it out if you are serious about spending time here in Ukraine, investing, maybe buying real estate as well. It would be a great course where you would learn a huge amount. It will save you just a lot of money and time. So if you are also interested in New Year's Eve and my in-person experience, do have clients who come to Ukraine, although most of them go to the alternatives. The idea is to go to Almaty in Kazakhstan. I think it is the best place for New Year's this year. So if you are interested, then drop me an email, connor@connorklein.com, or fill out the application form for the in-person experience. You find the link back below, and then I will come back to you in due course if it's good fit to work together. And yeah, you can also become a member of this channel by going clicking on, it's just on the channel page. I am considering making some live streams there, probably more about the geopolitics for the members going forward, as it's become quite popular with other YouTubers. I do have the separate programs like the Ukraine from Destruction to Opportunity, where we go really in depth, and it's going to be over Zoom, so you can ask all your questions, interact with the other participants on the program. So you're going to pool all that economic and investment knowledge and analysis and expertise together. Obviously in the live streams, it is, you can more or less me talking, right? You can write your questions, I'll respond to them in your comments. However, it's definitely a different level when you are in one of those programs. But I am considering that. Let me know what you think, or if you would like some other exclusive content produced. If you are already a member, just drop me a message, connor@connorklein.com, or drop a comment in the comment section below this live stream. Let me get into today's live stream. So, what does Odesa feel like at the moment? Well, it is winter, it is wet outside, it's Irish weather. I was born in Ireland, so I grew up there. I haven't spent so much time there in the last few years, but this weather reminds me of the west coast of Ireland. It is wet, it is dark in winter, and it's a bit cold. It's not super cold. I do have my winter parka there, but you know, I'm wearing a t-shirt underneath it, and without gloves I can walk around. So it's not super cold yet, but the weather is pretty bad today. It hasn't been raining the other days, so it's just, it gets dark quite early, and we are into the winter. My apartment is heating and everything, so I'm not cold at home, even with the energy going out. So the vibe is basically being indoors and quite cozy in terms of the vibe here in Odesa at the moment. It's made that transition from feeling, you know, autumn-like to really feeling like winter. Obviously tomorrow is the 1st of December, and I guess that's officially, from a lot of people, the first day of winter, but it feels like it's winter today in terms of the weather. And definitely there's a big drop off in the number of people in the city of Odesa compared to the summertime. Now that it's winter, you don't have any tourists. Obviously international tourism is very, very low, as it has been for the last few years. And it's just basically locals and some other foreigners obviously live here. Not so many people are here. Obviously I have a quite niche audience in terms of guys who want to come here. Many of them have Ukrainian wives or partners. They've invested in real estate, or they own a business here, and that's why they're spending a lot of time. Or, as is the case with guys who join my program for Ukraine from Destruction to Opportunity, they are looking at investing here in Ukraine because they see it as an opportunity to be a first mover. Obviously you have some foreigners who, or many foreigners who are helping with the defense of the country, in the military, or part of an organization that's providing humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. And obviously that is something that is to be lauded in this time of national survival in effect. So overall the vibe is in Odesa, compared to what I said in all my other live streams, everything works, of course. It's just that the temperature has changed and you don't see so many, maybe see a little less foreigners than during the summer, but again, international tourism hasn't been a thing here in Ukraine since 2021. So basically it is life as normal during this time of the Russo-Ukrainian war and the extended invasion that started in 2022. The restaurants, there's just as many restaurants open here in Odesa as there was pre-war in the center. There are new ones open, some are closed down, but it's basically around the same. Great food, nice vibes. Like when you're here, you know, at a restaurant, enjoying some local cuisine. Actually, I'm going to enjoy it because it's probably going to get cold. I wanted to show it to you, but I might as well eat some of it before it gets too cold. Just take a second. Got my mamaliga. So everything seems pretty normal, like you'd expect if you've been to Ukraine in the past. On the surface, of course, a lot of people, especially if they haven't left Ukraine in the last almost 4 years, are suffering from the psychological impact of living under constant Russian attack. Quite often they hit civilian infrastructure, buildings, and kill civilians, whether that is by design or by accident. And whilst the statistical chance of being in the wrong place, the wrong time here on any given day that you come to Ukraine is about 1 in a million, the psychological impact is there for everybody. So I think when you start talking to people, and then of course their concerns come to the fore, because it's been you know, over 11 years of this Russo-Ukrainian war at this point, and we're getting up to 12 years, I guess, because it started in 2014. And with this extended invasion in 2022, this real national crisis and battle for survival has been 4 years. So it's taken its toll psychologically. It is not like living in London during the Blitz, like a lot of people try to represent. I think one day in the Blitz, 1,000 people were killed in London, for example. It's nothing to that extent here, but it has been drawn out longer than the Blitz in the sense of how long it's gone on. But the rest of the time, it feels pretty normal. Everything is working. Your cards are going to work, just all the logistical stuff. Yeah, cards are going to work. Your ATM should be able to go to the end withdrawal. You can change money in the center, no problem with that if you have dollars, euros, pounds, but you know, the main currencies. Internet works when we have electricity. Obviously, it goes out when they take out the electricity, but that's just temporary. Cell phone, internet works pretty well as well. I have a local SIM card in. Just make sure if you're coming on a card from maybe a European country. Most of my American clients, they have packages that cover Ukraine, so it's never an issue on the roaming. But I had one Belgian client, and yeah, apparently wasn't covered by his plan. It will be part of the roaming for the EU from January 1st. So in 1 month, it won't matter anymore. The EU SIM cards I had, like ones from Latvia or from Poland, there was no issue using them here. There's no roaming. They actually counted it as being part of the EU. And a Ukrainian card, if you buy when you go into the EU, works, but doesn't become the law that all of them have to give you roaming until January 1st. So it's only relevant for a month at that point. But most of my American clients had also covered Ukraine. So everything is going to work. You just come to the border with your passport, assuming that you have visa free. That's going to be the case for 90 days, every 180 for Americans, for EU citizens, for Brits, for Canadians, for Australians, for New Zealanders, basically allied countries, no problem. As long as you haven't been openly supporting Russia for the last few years, then I don't even know why you'd want to come. But there are some nutcases like that want to show up in Ukraine. Not very many of them, I'm sure, but there are some, because I see them make comments online and they say, "Oh, I come to Odesa," even though they support Russia. But you've probably got a loose screw loose there. Obviously, if you've been to Russia since the invasion started, first of all, what the hell were you doing there in the first place? If you want to come to Ukraine after, it's probably going to be an issue. We can think of Baldwin bankrupt Ben Rich and yeah, his shenanigans. He's no longer a persona non grata here in Ukraine, but he seemed to be prevented from entering for a couple of years. He's also banned from Russia, and he doesn't go anywhere near Belarus. But outside of that, you should have no problems. You can stay 90 days every 180 without a visa. If you're looking for a visa, I help my clients with that as well. It's one of the countries that's actually easier to get a visa to come to Ukraine if you're from a country like the US. So in terms of life, everything's open, it's vibrant, considering it's winter in Odesa, which was always quiet. So let me enjoy some of this mamaliga. Tasty stuff. So unlike when the invasion started, getting access to everything, assuming you have some cash, is not an issue here in Ukraine for now. The supply routes, everything kind of works pretty well, and life goes on. It's pretty remarkable as we go into the, it's going to be almost 4 years since the invasion, 2022. So that is what it's like vibe-wise. I made some other points about gyms. Yeah, I go to the gym most days here. Everything is open like that. I go to one that's underground, so I have less reason to worry during an air alert. But in general, all the kind of normal things you associate with Odesa in the winter, if you've been here before, or a big city in Europe, they all function pretty well. You do need to carry your passport around with you all the time as identification. There is martial law here in Ukraine, so soldiers and the police, they can ask you to identify yourself without any, having any probable cause or anything like that. They can just ask you. So I think in the first 3.5 years of the war, I was never asked for my ID. But in the last 2 or 3 months, I've been asked a few times. So it is something that I definitely advise you to respect as a rule here, and just make sure you have your ID on you at all times so you're able to identify yourself if you are stopped, and that is something that is requested. Accommodation, Airbnb works, or you can stay in a hotel. I would recommend using Airbnb apartments. Some of the hotels are occasionally hit by Russian rockets, like the Bristol Hotel here in the center of Odessa, and in Kharkiv the Premier Palace was hit. So yeah, I think probably on balance I would say in an Airbnb apartment if I was going to recommend it someone, but again the chances of being in the wrong place at the wrong time are pretty small from that point of view. And in terms of prices here, did I look at the price list for, let me just tell you how much my tea is so you can judge for yourself. So my tea is going to be 95 hryvnia. That's about $2 US, about maybe maybe a little bit over $2 US. It's going to be about €1.80, I guess, maybe €1.70. So that's for the tea here. And my mama Liga, let me just see. This particular one is the price here, one on the menu is 115 hryvnia. So it's like about 50 hryvnia to €1, maybe a little bit more than that. So that would mean this is like €2, which let's say it says 115, right? So yeah, it's going to be about €2.30, I guess. And that's about $2, I know it's $2.70 maybe for this, which is obviously a very basic dish. So in general, I would say that compared to a typical place, I mean, it always depends if you're in a big city in the US, or a medium-sized city. Are you going to a fancier restaurant, or are you going to a more middle-class restaurant in terms of the pricing? But if I compare it to the countries nearby, like Warsaw and Poland, I think everything is now double in Warsaw compared to, a city like Odessa, and Chisinau is in between, the capital of Moldova. It's a little bit cheaper than Warsaw, but it's more expensive here than in Ukraine. But probably it's going to be about half the price of probably where you're watching this from. Could be a third of the price, or maybe could be even more. Watching it in Zurich, in Switzerland, it's probably a quarter of the price, if not a fifth. Food, one of the best things here in Ukraine and Moldova for sure. Breadbasket of Europe. Let me go on to some other points. I already mentioned you need your ID, but in general, there isn't any sort of petty crime issue. I've only ever heard of one issue, like a friend of a friend. Someone tried to mug him once, but I think that was already 2 years ago. I'm talking about since the invasion in 2022. Basically, there's almost no petty crime here in Ukraine. I think the government official statistics, they solve 95% of crimes because there's martial law. And yeah, there's just zero tolerance in any sort of that crime, and there's a lot of police and soldiers around, so people in uniform who can deal with that quite quickly. So really, outside of Russian terrorism, it's probably safer than it was before the invasion, ironically. So yeah, these things in terms of crime, if you're planning to go to Medellin in Colombia, like one of my friends said he's flying there tomorrow, he's already been Scalapamine, It's the drug that they give people and it knocks them out, makes them very compliant apparently, so they can even persuade you to give them your codes to all your accounts, but basically they steal all your money and everything out of your apartment. He already did that. That happened to him once, and he was also held up at gunpoint, where he actually fought with the muggers and actually killed them because he grabbed their gun. So very dramatic, but that's where he's going. I feel safer here in Odesa in Ukraine. That particular friend has also been to Ukraine during the war. But yeah, that's the thing, right? So many guys are willing to go to Medellin in Colombia, who are the type of guys who might watch this channel, and they don't think twice about it. But going there as a tourist, as a male tourist, especially a single one, going to be way more dangerous than coming here to Ukraine. Looking forward to ordering some Plăcintă pretty soon. Air defense, the mood. I've talked about the prices. Yeah, just in terms of safety, it's up to everybody to judge, like what degree of safety they want for themselves in terms of the location. Not every city is the same. Well, you can't basically go to the cities that are near the front line anyways, because the Ukrainian military is not going to let you go there without permission. But for example, there's cities like Mykolaiv that are closer. It's about 3 hours. It's less than 3 hours here from here. It was 3 hours to Kherson, so I guess about an hour and a half from Odesa. That would be closer to the front lines. I don't think so many people are going there to hang out. I have lots of. Maybe even put the vlog down below afterwards when I watch this on replay. But I went there 4 years ago. I made a vlog. Kyiv is probably, but it's 5 times bigger. There are definitely a lot more attacks in Kyiv than there are in Odesa, for example, but Kyiv is 5 times bigger. So it's probably a bit more dangerous in Kyiv, statistically, than been here. But when you take into account the size of the city, it's probably not a huge difference. Lviv is safer again than being in Odesa or in Kyiv. However, if you want to go to cities that hardly ever have any attacks, that would be Uzhhorod in the extreme west of Ukraine, near to the border with Slovakia and not so far from the border with Hungary. I also made a vlog from autumn 2024 from there. I'll put it down below in the description afterwards to the live stream, and up in the card maybe. And you also have Chernovtsi, another city I've also vlogged in, and that is really beautiful. It's like Lviv, about half the size, and yeah, they very rarely have any attacks, so that would be even safer. Probably safer being there than being in 99% of US cities, to be frank, because there isn't really any petty crime or gun crime or knife crime, any of that stuff. And I think Chernovtsi was hit in terms of a terrorist attack by Russia maybe once or twice only during this extended invasion of 4 years. And I'm not sure. They bombed Mukechevo, which is near to Uzhhorod. It's another city that I've logged in Zakharpatsky Oblast, but I don't think they hit Uzhhorod so far. So touch wood on that. So those are 2 cities you could go to, and I mean, there's no reason, looking at it right now, that you would be concerned about your safety at all. Guys are almost certainly going to ask me in the comments about dating and romance. So what is it like being a single guy, presumably, during these times of war? And there were a lot of myths. I think there was a lot of misinformation, should we say, but really disinformation from scammy sites that were trying to promote Ukrainian women or dating Ukrainian women. Like we've had this whole, I have a live stream, I'll drop down below again, it's maybe 2 back. We're dealing with the whole Ukrainian bride business and what I think of it in general. But they were describing that all the women here are desperate to leave, desperate to flee. Definitely by 2025. We had back in 2022, of course, a huge exodus when men between the ages of 18 and 60 couldn't leave, but women could. So most single women, I would say, left the country. Here in, speaking of the end of 2025, going into 2026, a lot of the women who stayed single, I guess, or had a husband or boyfriend here, they have come back and they live in Ukraine. So a lot of people did come back in general. And not so many people are now leaving. So we've had this return. And I quite often meet women who spent maybe 3 years abroad and basically decided they still wanted to come back to Ukraine. Many of them have learned English or some other foreign language where they were living. It wasn't their intention to live abroad, but they missed home, so they've come back to live here. But when you think about the number of especially single women who left and their incentive to stay abroad, definitely it is not overall gender balance. There are definitely more, I would say, more men here, between the ages of 18 and 40 than women. Of course, many of the men are fighting on the front, although they tend to be guys who are over 40 in general. The population, population curve, we'll say, for that generation of what's now 18 to say 35 is actually pretty small in Ukraine. It's actually the same Russians to do what happened in the 90s in terms of the drop in the birth rate. So most of the guys at the front are, because of that, basically in their 40s or in their 50s. The age for mobilization, conscription into the Ukrainian military in 2022 was 27, and now it's now 25. So as you can see, guys between 18 and 25 are not required to be in the military, they're not mobilized. Men over that are eligible for conscription, but that doesn't mean that they all are. It's only a certain percentage are actually mobilized, although it has been increasing over the last year. Recently, they changed the law here so that men between 18 and 23 can actually leave. So a lot of men have left who were between 18 and 23 because they changed that to allow them to leave so they can go and study abroad. I think that was or work abroad, and because they're not eligible for conscription. So that means that I guess in 2 years' time there won't be that many young new men who would even be eligible for conscription, which is interesting they decided to do that. So I would say overall, when you go out, because a lot of guys are at the front in the military, or they are trying to avoid being registered for conscription, or they are AWOL from the military, they are less likely to be out. So I'd say when you go and socialize in places, the gender balance will say there's probably more women overall in most places you're going to go out and socialize in. When I hang out in my favorite cafes, it's actually maybe 70-80% women. But when you go to a bar, just before people go out earlier, obviously here because we got curfew, I wouldn't say that it's 80% women in the bar. In a nice cocktail bar, it's probably 50-50 or maybe 60-40, 55-45 more women. I would say that's the ratio. And if you're watching this from most of the US or the core Anglosphere, where it's probably 80% guys, when you go to a bar, maybe that's still very attractive. But that is the reality. Do I think that since the guys watching this are all you're going to be foreigners, are they interested in foreign guys? Well, if you're from an allied country, I guess that should be a positive. Definitely there are less foreigners here, so there's been more of a novelty. A lot of the girls, as I was saying, have lived abroad for a few years. Maybe they're even more curious to hang out with a foreigner. That said, they decide to come back to Ukraine. So if you're coming just for a weekend, I can't imagine that that's necessarily going to be so interesting as it is in most of the region. But if you are here in Ukraine, you're providing some value to the local society, especially during the Russo-Ukrainian war, then that would be highly valued. So yeah, there isn't a situation where all the women here are desperate to flee Ukraine. They could have already left, and many of them have already come back, and that is the way it is. So I would say that if you're only, as I say in all these videos and live streams, if your only interest in Ukraine is dating Ukrainian women, don't come, because you're going to have to put up with curfew, maybe the electricity going out, and also psychologically, whilst I don't think it's particularly dangerous, I mean, touch wood as always, if you come here, statistically, of course, you're going to have to deal with the psychological impact, and if you're not used to it, then that will be definitely very shocking. Maybe that's going to be very important for building your own character, to have experienced this and your own knowledge. That could be another reason to come and see it during the war. But if obviously your only reason is chasing tail, then don't come here, basically is what I say. There are plenty of Ukrainian women all over Europe. I guess there were a reasonable number in the US, but it looks with the Trump administration that a lot of them are going to have to leave in the next year or two. Those who went on the Unite for Ukraine program. So they'll be coming back to Europe most likely. So yeah, you can go to Warsaw. There's lots of Ukrainian women there. Of course, then you'll have a lot more competition if you're a foreign guy who doesn't speak Ukrainian or Russian, or you're only interested in chasing girls because yeah, you're attracted to them. You know, Ukrainians in general. So it's not going to be the same. But why would you go through all this mental anguish if that's not, you know, you don't have good enough reason? That's what I'll say about that. On the other hand, if you're coming here and, you know, like when my client came in August with me, yeah, he wants to move to the region. He's divorced. He sees long-term prospects. He's choosing between Moldova and Ukraine. Of course, could be an option if he meets someone locally, but it's not the main reason he came here or to Moldova. And in fact, we were even discussing maybe it'd be better. He likes Asian women anyway, so why don't you just go to Kazakhstan, meet your wife there, and then move to Moldova and Ukraine? It might be a better plan. As always, enjoying the good food here. So that's what I'll say about all those points. About what it's like in terms of atmosphere. Drop your comments and your questions down below. And I mean, overall, I'm kind of used to it. That's why I talk about the psychological impact of the war. I'm glad when I get a week, like it was a week in Moldova, and I don't have to deal with air alerts. I don't have to deal with Russian rocket attacks or noises or the anti-aircraft fire. I did hear some loud noise when I was half sleeping, I think, in Chisinau, and in my head I was already thinking, oh, they've already come here to Chisinau. I'm gonna have to get up and flee to Iași or somewhere in Romania. But you know, I was like only half awake, and then I woke up properly an hour or two later. I was like, yeah, I was kind of starting to dream when I heard that noise. So it does have an impact. So just be aware of that as well. But that can even be attractive. One of my clients here, a consulting client, he is interested in becoming a journalist and a war journalist. So for him, he actually wants to be here. He's actually here at the moment. And yeah, he plans to spend a lot of time in Odesa, in particular, in the next 6 months, in spite of the weather, in spite of this war. But that is actually a reason for it to be here. So obviously, it's become more and more niche. I don't have the same number of people watching me as before back in 2021, but it is what it is. And there are alternatives as well if you want to live a life without the direct impact of the war in the region. Right, let me go on to deal with the war negotiations, since that was something that, even though I spoke for 2.5 hours last week, actually let me eat more of this mammalita first of all. You know what? This is what it looks like. Mamaliga, traditional food in Romania, Moldova, and in this part of Ukraine. I'll just finish up what's here in the bowl, and then maybe I order a Plăcintă so you see what that looks like as well. If you've never been to Odesa or to Moldova. So even though I spoke for 2.5 hours the last live stream, I went through the 28-point plan, point by point, so you understand it. If you're really interested in this kind of stuff, I have a background in international relations, went to best school in the world at the time for international relations. I had a specialization in this region, also in security studies, and I used to work as a lawyer at the institutions in Brussels. So looking at what should have been a legal document, but that, you know, we've seen in the last week with the leaks, and I speculated about that on my geopolitics channel. I'll link to that down below. I'll be making a lot more content for that going forward in the next few days. But we had the leaks of the dimwit plan, as it's known as. That's a portmanteau of Kirill Dmitriev, this Russian sovereign wealth fund manager, and Stephen Witkoff, who is Donald Trump's special envoy to, well, he's not really to Ukraine, he's more to Russia, because he's never even come to Ukraine at all, ever, it seems, in his life, never mind when since he's become this special envoy. The conversations were leaked to the media. I speculate it's by a European ally of Ukraine, but that's just speculation on my part. I don't have any hard evidence. We'll find out in due course, a bit like the Nord Stream explosion a few years ago, when I speculated that it was most likely been Ukrainians, and that wasn't the mainstream opinion or the alternative pro-Russian opinion either, but it looks like that was actually the case. And it turns out that the Russian side basically gave Stevie Witkoff what they thought would be not really a draft, but just kind of the points written out rough, and that he would take that, incorporate it, and then they could kind of direct him to have a more pro-Russian first draft. They didn't think he would actually literally take it. It doesn't seem, we don't even know if he changed anything, and more than doing a Google Translate from Russian to English, and just served that up as their draft, and then Donald Trump took ownership of it, I presume without even actually reading it himself. But that 28-point plan is now completely moot, and there is now, it's actually Yermak who's already resigned, but he met with Marco Rubio, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, so like the foreign minister, and they came up with a 19-point proposal that's an alternative that has not been released, but I did look, through the media what's been leaked, so we can say that it is, not written by the Kremlin directly as opposed to this other document. But how relevant is Marco Rubio at all in this process when Donald Trump seems to give all the emphasis to the process to his friend Stevie Witkoff, who is not only incompetent, clearly doesn't know anything about the conflict, is a real estate guy with no relevant experience in diplomacy, and it seems like there's a lot of conflicts of interest with his family and business in general, and he also in those deep conversations was trying to help the Russian side directly with, it seems like, influencing Donald Trump himself. So, but Trump hasn't fired him. It's kind of amazing at this point. And we have this 19-point plan. I got a lot of messages about it, even after speaking for 2.5 hours last week. The bottom line is the too long didn't read version of, or synopsis of last week's live stream is these negotiations, in my opinion, are not leading anywhere. Also, this 19-point plan, there are a few points that are still very problematic from the Ukrainian point of view in it. But basically, I guess it was probably the lesser of two evils to go along with this process as it draws things out and presumably prevents the current U.S. administration from doing things that are even more harmful to Ukraine, like cutting off the intel support and the arms sales. The U.S. doesn't help Ukraine directly except for the intel sharing, and but they do sell arms to Ukraine's allies in Europe, who then pass them on to Ukraine. There is speculation that Trump administration is actually considering just recognizing de jure that occupied territories are Russian, or at least part of them. That would seem, as a negotiator, insane, but this is the times we live in. And the bottom line is that these negotiations are not going to lead anywhere, because at the end of the day, the two sides are in an impasse on the battlefield, and then neither government or leadership feels like they have more to gain by agreeing to some deal than they have by continuing to fight out to see where things go in the next few years. And Vladimir Putin has already said basically that he's not going to accept this 19-point peace plan. He didn't even say he would accept the one that they'd written, which was 28.1 originally that I commented on last week. He seemed to indicate that, that could be a basis for starting the talks, but presumably he was just going to demand more stuff if Ukraine actually were even to agree to it. And Ukraine was never going to agree to it because it would effectively mean the medium-term capitulation to Russia. They would almost certainly be completely controlled by Russia within the next, we'll say, maximum I would say 2 years, because Russia would act well before Donald Trump is likely to leave power, because the next president could be a Democrat or a more hawkish Republican with respect to Russia. So you can write your questions down below if you have any questions about the process. A lot of people, it surprised me how many people don't seem to understand how unrealistic these proposals are. And some of the comments I've received are, the Ukraine, can they get a better deal in a year, 2 years? And the answer is yes, of course. If the dynamics change on the battlefield, then either side, if they've got the upper advantage, can demand more terms. And the longer it goes on, the more it favors Ukraine, in spite of the US already withdrawing most of its support, because Ukraine is the defender. Russia has huge problems with its economy. It's already in recession. And they are going to struggle, as I predicted 2 years ago. I said second half of 2025 is when really the Russian economy will have issues, manpower will become a problem, and material. We see all those problems really starting to manifest for Russia. Of course, they can make decisions and just make huge sacrifices, but their revenues are dropping precipitously year on year. Now they got issues with trying to get around the new sanctions, and also Ukraine's blowing up their shadow fleet. So we'll have to see. 2026 is going to be, looking at it now, a bad year for Russia compared to the perspective from the Ukrainians. There's also a lot of elections that, if there's changes of power, would actually favor Ukraine. So we got the elections in Hungary by April. If Viktor Orban loses the elections there, which is very possible, then the current opposition in Hungary will be a lot more favorable to Ukraine, and there won't be as much blocking of initiatives to help Ukraine by their European allies and by the European Union. Then we got the midterms in the US. It does not look good for the Republican Party at the moment, because they just had elections and they didn't do well in them, and there's Trump's popularity rating is extremely low, and there's a risk that the U.S. will fall into recession before those midterms. And that's, people in general, that's the biggest thing that makes a difference in the voting, is how good is the economy. People care about what's, the amount of food on their plate, basically. And historically, the incumbents nearly always lose in the midterms after they win the presidential election and Congress, like the Republicans have done. So that may limit, especially after they've already had the primaries for the midterms, may limit this administration's ability to be pro-Russian, because it leans pro-Russian basically at the moment overall, from what we've seen. So I don't expect very much to happen, except for a lot of furor in the media and Donald Trump saying that Ukraine has to sign X, Y, and Z, and when they don't, well, we will just move on, and that will be that. I am very optimistic about 2026. I will make a video, another live stream probably in January, about what are the chances of this war ending or cessation of hostilities, at least in 2026. I'm definitely more optimistic than I was last year. Last year said it was 40% likelihood we'll see at least a temporary cessation of hostilities, so less than 50%, and it looks like that will have been accurate in the sense that it was less likely than more likely. And I think with the problems Russia's going to face in 2026, it's definitely going to be higher than the 40%. I think 2027, if it's still going on by then, I think it's kind of the high water point probably for Russia in terms of them being able to drag it out. I think just Putin's going to have too many problems domestically by then. But anyways, I'll save that for that live stream. I'll also have a live stream about where the best places to go in winter, this winter, and I'll try to do that when I'm somewhere like maybe Chisinau, Moldova in December, or maybe even somewhere in Romania where they have Christmas markets. Might be a nice one to do. Extra points before I get into the Q&A. Keep your questions and your comments coming there. The last video I had about Connor's Law, learn the language or live in the bubble. Go check it out. It's on the channel. I published it yesterday. Just a general comment about the alternatives to Ukraine, quite briefly, because one of my in-person clients was writing me today about going to either Warsaw or Chisinau or Riga or Almaty in Kazakhstan. Like, none of the other alternatives that I bring my clients to are popular online on YouTube, except for Warsaw and Poland. But I see a change in how that content is being made. We had the Polish loophole, as is known, where US citizens could basically get around the Schengen rules of visa-free 90 days every 180 by going in and out of Poland and just staying 90 every time. The US Embassy in Warsaw published a newsletter where they said that is definitely definitively over. And also with Russian aggression against Poland, we had the drones, drone incursion, basically didn't have explosives on them, those drones, the dummy drones, as kind of a trial run attack on Poland, and obviously the sabotage of the rail line recently, and many other sabotage attacks by Russia on Poland, that the mood has started to change. A lot of people were like way too sanguine on Poland in general, in my opinion, because here I give the good and the bad of each of the alternatives to where you might want to spend time in the region. They've now flipped, and they're talking about how, Poland is so great, the economy doesn't look good in the long run, just because it's come into their newsfeed, because the same influencers that were talking it up too much have now started to go the other extreme and talking your way down, talking about all these problems it's going to have, you need to flee Poland all of a sudden. But I think that's an overreaction, but I think that will mean that we're going to see less. The only place, basically, Warsaw, Poland, or Poland that's promoted in this region. I think we're going to see a change a bit. At least I've noticed it. I will have a vodka podcast with a content creator who's a foreigner, lives there. It's my favorite channel from a foreigner that lives in Poland. I also shot a clip with him that's supposed to go into the Warsaw vlog at some point when I ever make it. I started filming that over 2 years ago at this stage. And we'll have the podcast. Me do it remotely because I don't know when I'm going back next to Poland, but that's coming up on the channel. Yeah, I had an American guy come up to me here in Odesa. It must have been 2 weekends ago because it was before I went to Chisinau. And yeah, he had actually had a Moldovan ex-wife that he met on one of these dating sites. I'm not sure if it was actually one of the matchmakers, one of the major matchmakers. I don't remember which it was, but yeah, it ended in divorce. After a few years, he'd come and taken her to the US. So, as I say, you know, we can't get accurate statistics on these guys who come wife hunting in this region historically, how it works out for them in the medium to long term. But the divorce rate here, just to reemphasize, higher than in the US. It's over 50%. And the US is just under 50%. And yeah, what did he tell me? Yeah, he said everything worked out well, but then she started to hang out with these women who were also from the region, who also had American husbands, some had divorced their American husbands. And yeah, she got all the ideas in her head about how family law works in the US. And this is something I've talked about before. Like, if you think that you're gonna meet someone here, basically export her back to the US, and she's never going to figure out family law. She's not going to start hanging around with other women of the region who are a lot more wily, and they're not going to be cackling together down in the beauty salon. And you're being very naive. That's my basic point. Never had another, at least anecdotal evidence of it happening, right? So this guy came up, he likes the channel. He told me, but he's now actually got a girlfriend from Vinica, he told me. So he spends some time there, some time in Kyiv, some time in Odessa, but he actually is based here now, and that is the better option. It's what I've always advocated. This channel is come to the region, spend time. I mean, of course, you can always move to a third country, move back home at a certain point, but if you're one of these wife hunters, yeah, I mean, I think you're, not that it never works out. I did have a consulting client, and you can use Yelena. I'll put the playlist to all the Ukrainian bride business stuff down below. And he's happily married, it seems, after a few years. And he did meet through a marriage. So I can't say it doesn't work for anyone. And he did bring her back to the US. His original plan, I think, was to spend time, live at least a lot of the year here in Odessa, but with the war, that hasn't come to pass, unfortunately, yet. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting for you to hear just yet another example of these guys who meet someone on a dating site or in a marriage agency, take their new Ukrainian, Moldovan, and it was a site that had Ukrainian women or Ukrainian brides, but she was actually Moldovan. So you see a lot of them now, they keep the Ukrainian branding, and the women are actually from other countries in the region because the branding is what guys recognize, and it's got some value still. But yeah, just be wary of that. It's just another example what I give you. Doesn't mean it happens to everybody, but the reality is that, yeah, don't have great expectations. If you're going to go to a dating site or a marriage agency or something like that, you're not getting creme de la creme. It's not the women with options. It's the women that are struggling to meet men. Let's be frank about it. And yeah, if they don't meet women, can't meet guys, even if they go on something like Tinder or Bumble, whatever it is. Because so many of them are living abroad anyways. Like, they're surrounded by foreign men. If no one wants them for a serious relationship, it's a red flag straight off the bat that they're there. So yeah, it's really kind of bottom of the barrel stuff, I would say, in general. But it works for some people. It may still be a good option for you, but just, you know, bear in mind those caveats. And yeah, the level of desperation probably involved with it. I also had another interesting call. It was actually, I hadn't mentioned it, but it was over a month ago because I was still in Kazakhstan, where I actually spoke with the mother of someone who, he also had a Moldovan ex-wife. Is that the same person? Why is all the Moldovans all of a sudden? They're not even Ukrainians. But we are in a Bessarabian restaurant, so kind of apt. And yeah, she just had the impression that matchmakers were normal in Moldova and in Poland and Ukraine, because she was from somewhere, we'll say in the Middle East, his mom. And I was like, no, this is not how hardly anyone meets maybe in the 19th century they had the village matchmaker, but no, this is like not like it's odd. It's very odd if a woman is going to these kind of things. Again, it means no options. I just thought it was. Maybe in their culture it's like more common. I guess it is. Have the matchmaker. I have a friend who's from the Middle East, and yeah, back in the day, actually, his family was trying to arrange this. But I don't know if he used a professional matchmaker or not for him. He's Muslim. But I hear about it more with Muslims than with Christians in general, or other religions where they have the matchmaker who tries to arrange between the families, the different eligible bachelors and bachelorettes. But this is something that is not normal in Ukraine or Belarus or Poland or Moldova. There's kind of thing about, they weren't calling themselves matchmakers, they were saying they were agency. And they would, I don't know what they were doing, walking around the street in Poland, stopping, apparently they were targeting Ukrainian and Belarusian women to join their agency, and then, yeah, it's based in Warsaw. But again, I've had clients that have, you know, in terms of, we'll say women who are under 30 attractive and don't have kids, I mean, that's almost a pipe dream at any of these agencies anymore. And anyways, my main point is that it's not normal. I just thought it was interesting that they managed to persuade her it's like normal that they have matchmaking in it wasn't even in Ukraine, they were talking about Poland and Belarus more mainly. So kind of mad what they can persuade people of based on their own experience in their own culture before, so they don't know any better. But just to clarify that, what you should do is an alternative. Just something came up that was interesting, sent to me by a client. It's nothing to do with me, but I actually would go to it for different reasons. There's like business meetups in Kyiv, and because this becoming more on my channel, you know, business becoming more and more important investment. It's actually something I would go to. Most of the guys seem to be foreigners who are businessmen in Kyiv, so for me that would be a good networking opportunity, obviously. But there are a lot of women who go to that as well, who maybe they own their own business, maybe they're involved in something involves foreign investment, and it's obviously a place where people go to meet each other for more than the business connections, for sure. And that is a way better environment if you're going to meet someone, because they're probably going to have similar interests to a certain extent. Better understanding of foreigners. They probably speak English, a lot more likely to speak English. And yeah, it's not officially a dating event. That's what's even better, because as soon as you put the word dating on it, whether it's in-person speed dating or, you know, obviously a social, one of those things, yeah, or it's a marriage agency, that's even the lowest, because it's like really it screams of desperation, or matchmaking, whatever it is. Once you, or even a dating app like Tinder, that's why it's so low nowadays. Once the novelty is gone, then yeah, it's a way worse environment. Better that it's something that is like a business meetup, and it just happens there are a lot of women, a lot of men who are probably going to be reasonably compatible that go to it. Of course, again, anything to do with work or business or profession, people meet still pretty often. It's like one of the things that's been pretty standard, I think. It's like, look at these stats for the US, even about where people meet. Still at work is one of the main ones. So just think that's a better alternative, something that came up with a client. And then the last thing, just to clarify, because on a previous live stream I kind of mocked the idea of love languages. I mean, this is not, it's like when people talk about masculine, feminine energy, these are metaphors. They're not to be taken literally, but I see in a lot of these online content, they say, oh, my love language is this. Listen, we all like getting gifts. I mean, we all like physical connection and touch from people. We all like, well, I can't remember the five that are. Yeah, it's good to understand, especially the culture here, that giving gifts, especially as a guy to woman, like flowers, if you're in a relationship, not if you're not in a relationship, but and birth more than we would do, I think, in the US or in Western Europe. That's a cultural difference that's important to understand, so you really need to do that a bit more. Their love language here for every single woman is going to be receiving gifts. It's just part of the culture. But you're not going to be more compatible because I like getting touched, and she likes getting gifts, and I like to give. This is something to be aware of in general, but it's not something that has to be taken literally. There's no scientific evidence for it. It's just an observation. Some guy wrote a book 20 years ago, and he didn't have any scientific data. It was just his kind of hunch from having, done a lot of counseling. But people seem to take it really literally. That, my love language is this, and this is not quite the level of astrology, but not that far off it. Same with masculine, feminine energy. Depending on the conditions, we all have these traits, and through evolution biology, definitely men in general, you know, being the leader, being the provider, is a lot more common, and it will remain to be a lot more common because of this evolutionary process that we have. And most people are going to prefer, in most relationships, the man is the main provider and the woman is playing more support role. Just mean it's for everybody. You can obviously have the opposite as well. But the other half is conditioning. It's just the fact in the past women made a lot less money because they didn't have as many opportunities. Now women make more than men in the US between the ages of 20 and 30. So that's going to be changing. So there's nothing innate about it other than the part of us that's, you know, evolutionary biology, because it takes a lot longer for the evolutionary, the biology to evolve than, you know, in 2 or 3 generations as it has, since women start to get a lot more rights and be a lot more, be able to contribute outside the home a lot more. So yeah, and that's also something that's used by a lot of scammers is, I'm going to be my feminine frame, my feminine energy, if you just buy me a lot of stuff. And a lot of these guys who will maybe lack a lot of success when they're back home, they think, oh yes, now I get to be the man, I don't have those feminists push me around, let me take out my credit card and start buying stuff. Yeah. Caveat emptor. Be careful what you wish for as well, because that is something that I see a lot of scammers use. They have these training programs for women who are scammers, like online, and they teach them to do this. I reviewed what were they called again? I can't remember. It was in Russia, and they were standing outside the petrol station trying to persuade men to pay for their petrol, saying, oh, my feminine energy, you know, blah, but you could be a real man basically and just buy me stuff. Or they would hang out near the cashier when they're going to pay for their groceries at high-end supermarkets, like the gall in these women, like the chutzpah. And then they would just pretend they forgot their credit card, someone trying to get some man to step into his masculine energy and be a provider. Yeah, so just beware of all these things. They're not, you know, I always look for, is there any sort of research or scientific basis to a lot of things that we assume. And then when there's a gap there, then you do your best through your own evidence. And obviously I've not only have my own experience, my friend's experience over a decade here, and my clients' experiences that I can give you at best assessment. Someone wrote Captain Save-A-Ho. Oh, that is so much the white knight saving in to save milady is such a thing. A lot of guys also go to the marriage agencies. They tell me that. But it's not everybody, obviously. Love language is something that, should read attachment and communication theory. It's not something I'm really that well versed on, but they give you a lot more in-depth explanations about, the psychological behavior and understanding the emotional needs of your partner. And love languages, it's a very rudimentary schema to understand that, what most people could tell you. If someone really likes been touching you, don't touch them in a relationship, then it's probably going to cause a problem, and vice versa. And being aware of that is good, but there's no, like, it doesn't mean you're going to be more compatible long term. You can also just change, just be aware of it. It's the same culturally when you come to this region and you understand that there's no going Dutch. Like, that's not about love languages, that's just a cultural difference. And you'll struggle if you don't understand that. But you could also just insist going 50-50, but your options are going to be very low. I know one guy who did it. He was an athlete here. And he said a lot of girls complain. I was like, I didn't want to see him. But he said he was really, really adamant that he was not going to pay for dates and stuff like this. He was going to go 50-50. I was like, man, you're in Ukraine. This is the cultural norm. He's like, no, he's a Western European. I won't say his nationality because someone figures it out. But because he has actually appeared on my channel, I think in B-roll, at one point. I'm not even sure about that, but I definitely filmed him a few times. He had a partner from here for a while. Now it seems to have broken down. I spoke to him recently, unfortunately. So, that is something to be aware of. No going Dutch. It's women here are less financially emancipated than they're going to be in Western Europe or even Poland. Like, there's a big difference. I think that's one of the big differences between Poland and Europe culturally. But don't mistake that for traditional values. When the divorce rate's over 50%, when there are more single moms here than probably in the US. What else? I mean, the thing as a former lawyer here, like, family law does not protect women here. It protects men more from being deadbeat dads, basically. So the divorce is still over 50%, and it's still mainly, from what I can tell, it's very hard to get accurate statistics. It's still the women here that instigate most of the divorces. Then you're going to move them to the US or UK. You think it's going to get better or worse? I know what my gut feeling on that is when you have even more incentives for this kind of behavior. So don't fall into that trap. Yes, there are differences. Yes, they are less financially emancipated, and maybe that's your preference. Cool. And it is going to be a place, like if you want to go 50-50 like my friend did, it's going to be a problem here, right? So definitely you need to understand those nuances. And yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there and maybe order some Plăcintă. Links down below. I can actually look on the screen here at your questions. Let me pull up. Yeah, you can see. Yeah, great. I can see. I see Ben. He gave a contribution. Thanks, man. He bought me a beer, an Odesa beer. Links down below. You can find the guides for Moldova, Ukraine. Apply for the in-person experience. You have my consulting down below. You have my program, one for investing in Ukraine. You can still go and check out the landing page there and the live stream I gave about 2 weeks ago. I'm going to extend the enrollment on that. So if you are interested in an entrepreneur, investor, or maybe relocating here and buying real estate stuff, at least go and check out the 1-hour presentation there and the Q&A with the guys who were interested in the program at the time when we did that 2 weeks ago. Anything else to say down below? No, I think that's it. Let me just get into your questions. So, someone who's a regular here, but apparently pro-Russian, later greater Connor Klein thinks he's smarter than Zelensky, former press secretary Mendel, and U.S. Driscoll. Yeah, Dan Driscoll, maybe he's a smart guy. There doesn't mean much info, but he's definitely academically talented. But he's a buddy of, he went to Yale with the Vice President, J.D. Vance. And he hasn't been involved, and he wasn't even supposed to come to be a negotiator. A key colleague who was not as pro-Russian, at least, as Stevie Witkoff is, and pro-Putin. He's not gushing with praise for Putin all the time like Stevie Witkoff. Yeah, he's taken over his role and basically, again, trying to pressure Ukraine signing the 28-point deal. I mean, are they off their rocker? Like, it's not possible for Ukraine to sign it. It doesn't matter if it's Zelensky or president. They basically have to put in a pro-Russian president to sign it. Like, it's not going to happen. So, you know, forget him. He's already sullied his reputation here in Ukraine with his behavior. But he's just repeating what he was basically told to do, I would imagine. Okay. Yeah, I have a background in international relations. I was one of the first people to say that Ukraine wouldn't be overrun when the initial invasion happened, when the extended invasion happened in 2022. Said it on day 28. I'd actually come to the conclusion on day 21. Mainstream media, obviously all the old media and the pro-Russian stuff were saying Kiev is going to fall in the next 2 days, but the mainstream media was saying the same thing. And we had that, what everyone recognizes now was this disastrous traffic jam outside of Kiev by the Russian military. And after a few days of that, I was like, why aren't they advancing? That just looks like a sitting duck. And then it turned out to be that way. And it was clear they weren't going to overrun Ukraine. Like everyone thinks now, in hindsight, it was, well, maybe not everybody, but some people would accept that the whole narrative was that Ukraine would fall in 3 days, 3 weeks. The plucky Ukrainians might hold out for a month. At day 28, I called it that Russia would not achieve its strategic goals and Ukraine would survive as a state. Obviously, Ukraine changed its strategic goals later on, so they want to take back all the occupied territory, and I was more optimistic about that being achieved in early 2023 and late 2022 because, yeah, the Biden administration, I thought that they were going to support Ukraine to win, but that doesn't turn out to be the case. They had a strategic goal of an impasse, and they achieved that. It's not what I think they should have done, but I guess it's better than what we see from the Trump 2 administration from a Ukrainian point of view, and from a European point of view, and from a Western point of view. Yeah. Let's see, who cares if they are in jail? What it does? Yermak, well, Yermak, he resigned, so I think that's probably good. We'll see if there's any evidence to support that there was corruption by him. He was the main advisor to Zelensky, and basically a childhood friend. Worked with him for a long time in business. That kind of stuff. A lot of commentators. I don't know if it's smooth. Yeah, blah blah blah. That seemed like it's so interesting that the same people who say the West is fighting until the last Ukrainian. They don't seem to have a problem with China fighting until the last Russian because that's the same logic. Or that Putin's fighting until the last Russian or the last Ukrainian. But the U.S. at the moment is not an ally of. Under Trump, is not an ally of Ukraine. They're trying to position themselves as kind of a mediator. that basically favors Russia, the Russian position, while still providing intel and selling arms to the Ukrainians. So it's not all 100% one way. Even with NATO, they're talking about mediating between NATO and Russia. But the US is supposed to be the backbone of NATO. It makes no sense unless they're going to at least informally just leave NATO. And no Article 5. Article 5 itself is, at the moment, in terms of the US reacting, it's not a deterrent. It's not credible that if Russia were to invade Finland or Latvia tomorrow, that the US is going to send troops to protect them. That's not credible. I would like to think that Trump will prove me wrong in that case, but looking at the evidence at this point, no. And it would be the European allies. So why does the US even have a voice at the table then? It's not clear to me. Who are done, blah blah blah. My body knows people who are Kyiv and shit. All right, so at least some later getters going to talk about. So this is a pro-Russian guy who says he knows people who are in Kyiv, and he says shit for dating. Well, are they pro-Russian like you? But that's the thing. It's also the same in Poland. Like Poland is the country in Europe after Ukraine that's the most, we'll say, anti-Russian, right? Because they have this history of Russia. They know the Russians going to invade them and mass murder them, like they've been trying to do to Ukrainians for most of Ukrainian history, and destroy their independence, real independence from Moscow. And but so many of those guys, they go and hang out in Warsaw, openly pro-Putin. Like, what are your prospects having a long-term relationship with a Polish girl, or Ukrainian, or most of Belarusians are left? If you're pro-Putin, like, it's very low. I mean, basically, you're with a girl who basically is a traitor to her own people. Yeah, but that's who you limit yourself to. Okay, he said there's a certain leave again. Well, a lot of the guys left who were aged between 18 and 23 because back in August they changed the law here, so those guys could leave without permission. So just a lot of guys, I guess, who were in university age, they've moved out mainly to other countries in Europe. Okay, Ben, thanks again, Ben, for that contribution, for that pivo. Duży dziękuję. Ben, you can go and see, he was on the Bukovel podcast, the last episode, so 2 videos ago, about a month ago, I interviewed him. Marxist Capasivo, yeah. I think that's the mentality of many of the guys who even own the marriage agencies. Total U.S. government spending is 12 trillion a year, divided amongst U.S. governments, 150 million, plus 80,000 per worker. Okay, I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Maybe you could explain. Get a prenup. Yes, as a former lawyer, definitely get a prenup. I mean, even if you're here in Ukraine, it doesn't have to be necessarily a prenup. It's actually just a contract that you can sign at any time about the division of assets. It's the same as most of the West, I guess, and an asset acquired during the marriage is a marital asset, but you can have a contract, so it can be a postnup, not just a prenup, where you decide in the event that you break up that you divide it differently to the normal 50-50 division of the marital asset. And yeah, you don't have to be, this is not a big issue to be worried about if you're living in a place like Ukraine or Moldova. Thing is, if you go back to the US, prenup, depends on what, will it be read in your favor or not? Can be, might not be. You need to get very good legal advice on that depending where you live. Drifter Dan comes in. Connor always pushing his New Europe, and then after you do it, he tells them learn the language. So yeah, just to explain for people who aren't aware who Dan is. He's someone who came to Warsaw, and then you went to Bucharest, right? He doesn't like the local people, really. He pretends he does, but basically he was here just to chase chicks, which is fine. He's not doing any harm to anyone. He did get labeled a sex tourist by my crew in Warsaw, and he has more of that sex mentality, and he has absolutely no intention of learning the local language. That, of course, limits you. You can see the video I dropped yesterday. It's a personal decision. I'm not telling you have to. Just pointing out the downsides. And he really struggled, and he's spent, I think, he spent about the last month constantly sending me answers by ChatGPT or some other AI explaining to you that you should not be in this region, in New Europe, as I call it, because it's not for you. And I told you that myself after we met in Warsaw. I think it was like a month or two afterwards, it kind of occurred to me, like, why are you even here? It's not for you. You don't like the people, you don't like the culture, you just pretend you do. You had some experience back in 2012 where, Americans were pretty rare. You had foreigner factor. A lot of girls were interested in you, and you're also obviously 12 years older, and dropped them. Well, actually, aesthetically, because we talked about this, you did all this looks maxing and procedures, so actually you look probably better. But the issue is you don't have that foreigner factor anymore, and the only reason you're there is to chase girls. You don't like the climate, you don't like the people, you don't like the culture. So yeah, I told you to go elsewhere, and apparently you've gone to Berlin. You sent me enough messages and pointed out on your Instagram, and there you can just live in an English-speaking bubble. It's pretty big, and you seem happy with that. So yeah, teach their own. Enjoy the amazing nightlife of Berlin. It's alternative, but you're not gonna. I mean, you can find the same stuff in Warsaw, by the way. Exactly the same kind of nightlife, just it's a bit different. But yeah, you of course can just not learn the local languages, rely on English. It is a global franca. In Warsaw, most people will be able to speak English. But the problem is for socializing, like the biggest issue is not actually communication. If you're in a place like Warsaw or in the Latvia or Lithuania, it's fine. You'll be able to communicate in the city centers and for most things. But it's socially, people are not interested in the tourist crowd in general. There isn't so much foreigner factor. Outside of a niche, right? Obviously you have some groupies, right? And credibility is just low. And you weren't really interested in anything there anyways. So yeah, you end up being in this bubble, hanging out with other guys who are there for the same reason, also only speak English. And yeah, it's just low value, basically. That's the bottom line. If you come here, you also got a problem communicating. Same in Moldova if you don't speak the local language. I tell guys, if you're going to move somewhere, you should invest in learning the language straight up once you're committed to the country, because you really get the benefits the longer you stay after it. So just learn as soon as you can. I understand that everyone's going to be excited about learning the languages, maybe someone like me, but I just got a huge return on my investments, whether it's Ukrainian, maybe whether it's Russian back in the day. I can still use that in Kazakhstan. I learned Romanian, so I can hang on Romanian and Moldova. Also Russian is widely spoken in Moldova. I did use my Russian in Latvia as well, because I don't speak Latvian. And there, they take a long time to learn the Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian. I wasn't committed, so yeah, I spent last winter there, but how often I'm going to be there, I know how long it takes. But if you move there, if I knew I was going to live in Riga for a year, say, I'd just learn Latvian as well. And obviously Polish for Poland, because socially, you're going to be a huge disadvantage if you don't. I know it takes time, so it is a commitment. In terms of time, it doesn't cost that much money, it's just the time it takes. And yeah, it's a huge advantage, basically, even if the people speak English, just for socializing in general. Because most people, the same in Chisinau, they're not really into tourists. You can be, and I know some foreigners who have a certain setup there, and even here, one businessman I hang out with, he doesn't speak any Ukrainian or Russian, or only a small bit. You should just learn. Man, at the end of the day, it would help him a lot, but you just have a minus. It's not the end of the world, but you're gonna miss out. One of my clients, I featured in the video, former clients, he said that it was a game changer for him, basically. I'm not sure if he said it in the video, in this clip, but it was another video that he said that. Let me go back. Right, so I'm not sure why you even come onto the channel. Dan is a pseudonym. I mean, you should just start using your own real name. It's kind of a bit silly at this point to use a pseudonym. It's not an English-speaking bubble. It's a huge. It's a bubble, man. You're not part of German society at all. You hang out with mainly other foreigners and a few Germans who are part of that, who speak English, and you all live together and hang out in the same places again together. And socialize. All the events in Berlin are in English. Something you completely left out. Something about propaganda. You're not interested in my region. It's fine. Berlin for me is cool from back in the day. Alternative. You can go to electronic music is great there. You go to the clubs. Most of them are very gay friendly. So if you're into that kind of scene, I guess you'll have fun there, Dan. And otherwise, there's other reasons to be in Berlin. It's changed a bit because now it's gentrified in the center a lot. It's not as alternative as it used to be. yeah, maybe it's, I don't know what being a single guy, what it's like there, but you know, I already speak German, you know, so for me, I mean, I have no problem either way. If I move to Berlin, I can speak in English or in German. Let's see, also tons of transplant women in Berlin. They all speak English. Duh, can't connect with the locals, and also transplant women. There aren't any transplant women in Europe. Yeah, that is true. To a certain extent, it's actually not really true with Warsaw because there are a lot of immigrants who are also women. It's nearly mainly women from Ukraine who are hanging out in Warsaw, for example. And do they speak English necessarily? A lot of them do. But some maybe just learn Polish first because it's closer to Ukrainian. In the Baltic states, yeah, there probably aren't so many women. But there are a lot of Ukrainians. I mean, a lot of Ukrainians there. So a lot of them learn English as well. So yeah, but it seems like you're basically trying to target immigrant women to Berlin who've learned English. I mean, I guess it's a niche. I guess it's a niche that maybe they find you at more perceived value because you're also an immigrant there. Are you not? Do you even have a visa? Or are you gonna have to leave in 3 months again and go to Turkey and do procedures? No, it's each their own. So the thing is, to remind everybody, Dan and his friend, they spend a lot of money trying to prove me wrong. It's great market research because if they prove me wrong, then yeah, I wouldn't have to spend that money to find out. I can just change my advice to my clients. But you know, it's 2 years later, and Dan is interested in trans. No, I think Dan, you're straight, right? Or are you bisexual? Or I mean, he's not. I don't know. Maybe he's open to trans. I mean, to each their own. I don't. Oh, I see. It's transplant. So now I see the humor. Yeah, he means immigrants from other immigrants, basically. But you know, Dan is a political situation where he doesn't want to classify himself as a migrant, even though, yeah, I guess he's a migrant because he doesn't have a visa. He's 90 days visa-free, 180 days. Are we a tourist? Are we a migrant? Are we an expat because they don't tend to live there, or integrate? So, you know, it's a little bit vague to me which term we should use. But he's into trans, so in some sense. And so it hasn't been... Yeah, I used to hang out in Berlin. It was about a decade ago. It's not where I want to live, and it's not what this channel is about. But yeah, it's good that you found somewhere that it's a better fit for you, and that you... Well, I thought you stopped pestering us on these live streams. But I guess not. Let me go back before Dan start monopolize our time here. Ukraine military is approximately 800,000 troops on par with Russia. It's about 1 million people here in the armed forces at the moment. Government jobs in the US are filled primarily by women. Government jobs are hired. Well, I was referring to between 20 and 30 years of age, and that women make more money for the first time just in that age cohort than men. That obviously makes a big difference for hypergamy, which is the cross-cultural phenomenon that women date across and up in socioeconomic hierarchies. It's socioeconomic, it's not just purely money, but a lot, you know, a big money is the main part, but not 100%. And men then we date across and down in general, not 100%, there are exceptions, but in general. And that's obviously harder to meet when women are making more money in their, you know, until they hit just past 30 than men in the US the first time, on average, right? It warps things. It means that women are more likely to date older men. As a result, of these younger guys, they're going to be left out of the dating pool, right? Because until they get older. When they get older, there'll be benefits. But it does change things quite considerably. I'm not sure why it's important if women work for the government and get paid more than the private sector where there are more men. It's not really the point I was trying to make. It's like the changes it makes for the society. Okay, any more comments? I needed to order the Plăcintă, and I forgot to do it because I was talking so much. But let me see if they told me originally this was only available for another 10 minutes. But let me order something to monopolize the table here. Okay, I'm gonna order. I guess Dana offered some entertainment factor for us here. keep your comments and questions coming. I'm just looking here at them. And then when I look down, I miss the waitress. So, let me see when she comes back. Oh, I see one of my other friends over there in the next table, so I know what I'm gonna. I guess I will go there if they tell me this table is really taken in 10 minutes. Мені, будь ласка, Плăcintă. Сядь сам за нами.
Добре, вона буде 20 хвилин 30.
Дякую. Yeah, the loophole is, which told me it's going to be 20 to 30 minutes, so I guess I can monopolize this table for a bit longer, or invite my friend over here. I see he's got his laptop as well. Yes, I said that at the beginning of this live stream, or early in the live stream, that the loophole in Poland for US citizens, I was actually sent by Steven, who watches my channel, and actually told me about this loophole way back in 2018, maybe even. It's a long time ago, when I had no clients wanting to come to Poland. It's actually about Belarus and Ukraine. I helped him with something in Ukraine. Basically, because of a diplomatic agreement, exchange of letters, basically, by diplomats back in the early 90s, US citizens could go to Poland and stay visa-free for 90 days every time they entered. So not the normal 90 every 180 as is per allowance in Schengen. And they allowed them to do that even after Poland joined Schengen. However, the US Embassy in Poland circulated a newsletter where they officially confirmed that that no longer applies since the entry and exit system was introduced in October in the Schengen area, including in Poland. So yeah, you can't do that anymore. Passport bros got kicked out of Poland. Yeah, they're going to have to get a visa, so they're in your predicament. I mean, that was your predicament as well, I guess. But you don't want to live in Poland, which is good. It worked out better for you. Not been interested in living in Poland. Let's see the other comments. Ben asked me what restaurant I'm in. I'm in Mama Liha, which is a restaurant here on Yermak, so on European Street. It used to be named after Captain the Great, but they've changed the names here, so it's European Street. How's the service in Odesa? Excellent. Always had good service in Ukraine in general, I think. Sealand says, good evening, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm a good high spirits here in Odesa. Mr. Young writes, he went to Odesa 3 weeks ago to check it out. Barely any women, 50 people in total in the Arcadia mall. Not too interesting. Yeah, I haven't been down to Arcadia in the last few weeks. I'm surprised you didn't see any women. I think that's the main place where you see them. You know, that's at least where I hang out in my normal cafe when I'm down there. I'm more based in the center in the winter. Arcadia is the seaside area. That's the most commercial. I don't normally like it, but actually a lot of younger, attractive people actually do live there. So it's good to socialize in and during the day in the cafes and stuff, I find personally. But yeah, surprised you said that. I don't know why you're just walking around the mall though. Yeah, keep your questions coming while I wait for my Plăcintă here. Is there anything else that I want to say? If you have more questions about the negotiations and what's going on geopolitically, I have my geopolitics channel. I'll be making more content there in the coming days about what's going on. But my synopsis is that these negotiations are not going anywhere, and Vladimir Putin's not going to sign anything. He needs a complete capitulation in the short term by Ukraine in order to be sure that he won't lose power in Russia, or pretty sure. Even this medium-term capitulation agreement proposal that the Russians wrote, I don't think he would sign it. Also because he can just come back and demand more. I mean, imagine Trump bullied Zelensky into agreeing to it. Why would Putin just, I now have some more demands. And then what, Trump is probably in theory is going to try and bully Zelensky into signing the new stuff. So I don't think it'll happen. This 19-point plan, it's not great from a Ukrainian point of view. But I think Putin's basically already said he's going to reject it anyway. So I think it's fine that the Ukrainians went along with it as a strategy in how to try as best as possible to manage the current administration. which is leaning more pro-Russian than pro-Ukrainian. Even though they still give intel to Ukraine and still sell them arms. But what's the strategic goal there? There is none. There is none with this administration. It's get a deal so they can do business with Russia, which is not a national strategic priority. Maintaining relations with Europe, which is big. The US-EU trade limit is the biggest in the world, and they're risking all this, along with the loony left tariffs they keep periodically throwing in. But at least he's got tariffs on Russian resources at the moment, so that's good by Trump from a Ukrainian point of view. But again, what's the strategy? It's like no one can explain it to me anymore. Even the people who supported Trump were pro-Ukrainian. People who voted for Trump pro-Ukrainian. They basically either given up on him or they just don't answer when I ask them for like some input anymore. It's pretty hard for them to explain his behavior. What did I order? I ordered Plăcintă. I'll describe Plăcintă. It's like, I guess, dough with some fillings. Let me see what the actual description is. Yeah, it's like dough. It's pastry. Round or square flatbread. Okay, there we go. The sweet and savory fillings. They described it better than I did on the fly there. As long as we get to sell the just 39 and the sweets are. Yes, Sweden and France are going to supply jets to Ukraine. The Ukrainian military will be pretty. I mean, it's already as a fighting force the best in Europe. That's on the western side. Dumplings, no. This Bessarabian cuisine in this restaurant where I am, so it's like Moldovan cuisine. I mean, but that's Bessarabian tradition was Moldova and part of Odesa Oblast together. And I featured on vlogs, like went down to Bukovel, which is known as the Venice of Ukraine. It's not like Venice, it's an exaggeration, but it still was interesting to check out. And what else is down there? Basically, you have the Danube flows into the sea there, so you got the Danube Delta. A very interesting region. Most of the Danube Delta is in Romania, about 2/3, but there's 1/3 in Ukraine. The culture there is basically very similar to Ukraine. Ethnic mix is similar, or to Moldova, similar to Moldova, the part of Ukraine. That's in Bessarabia, historically. In West, young men are less likely to date. Clubs are empty in many U.S. cities. Is this a trend in Europe as well? Interesting that you asked me that, because I left a comment under Michael Sartain's a video by Michael Sartain, who I reacted to on this channel maybe about a year or two ago. And I said, is this issue with nightclubs and women not going to nightclubs US, UK, Canada phenomenon, like a core Anglosphere phenomenon? Because I don't see any difference in Central and Eastern Europe. But yeah. I don't think it's an issue. And you don't need to drink alcohol at a bar or club. There's normally some explanation or excuse for not going there, but it's a place where people are open to socialize. It's easier to get to know people. More likely people are single than not single if you go to those environments. But in general, the best way is to build a social circle, go to events, and yeah, you have lots of other opportunities just in your daily life. You go to the gym. If you go very regularly to the gym, I mean, I'm obviously not the most buff guy, let's be frank about it, but girls are pretty friendly to me in my gym, so that's a good place. But again, it's being around, spending time. These guys who come in as the weekend warriors or the wife hunters on a trip excursion, like it's so suboptimal for meeting people. Mark says he's not even looking for women anymore. Happily single. Okay, good for you. You can elaborate that if you want. It'll be interesting. Ben says he voted for Trump because, as bad as he is, it's better than escalation management from Biden-Harris. It was an impossible choice between useless idiots. U.S. elections are shameful, but we can definitely agree with your last statement. The choice that American voters have between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris was, the Germans say pest and cholera, like the plague or cholera. Which disease do you want? It was a terrible choice. It's indictment on U.S. democracy. That was the choice that people had. I agree with that. I still think, from a Ukrainian point of view and a European point of view, the Harris administration would have been less problematic, less destructive for our relations. But we don't know what she would have done. There was a lot of optimism on the Ukrainian side that it would change this escalation management, impasse strategy, and actually help Ukraine to win. But probably, who knows? It's a moot point. Like, she wasn't elected. Trump is president, so just got to deal with what's in front of you. The saving grace of this administration, like Steve Bukovel is so incompetent. He's been exposed by leaks and eavesdropping, and Trump keeps helping there. So he's almost a hindrance at this point to Russia. I mean, from a Ukrainian point of view, he's so incompetent, amateur, and he's so compromised, and it's so open. At this point, maybe it's better that he stays from a Ukrainian point of view, because he's not likely to be effective. So it's just too obvious what he's doing, and he has a vested interest, also something to do with his son, which is also a conflict of interest. There's so many conflicts, so we'll see how much the clown show can go on. That is the current administration with respect to foreign policy and war. Plus, they're considering attacking Venezuela. Be also something interesting to discuss in terms of how that affects the Russo-Ukrainian war. Venezuela is allied with Russia, so kind of interesting. Again, I don't really understand the logic of a lot of these decisions by the Trump administration. Mark says he follows yachts. All the Russian oligarchs have really nice yachts. Where do you go to? Obviously, where would I recommend Ukraine for single guys? I mean, I always said that Odesa is not the city to come to in Ukraine. Just always had a lot of scammers. A lot of girls are spoiled here because it's a port city. A lot of sailors making lots of money coming in. It was also a place that a lot of rich Russians used to come to prior to 2014. In one of my videos, one of the girls from here, was it Lera said, or was it Elizaveta? I think it was Lera. She quoted her father. I think it was Zaporozhets ni machina, a desitka ni žena, or ni zhinka, as you say in Ukrainian movies. So Zaporozhets is an old car from the Soviet times, a bit like a Lada would say. So a Lada is not a car, as a girl from Odesa is not a wife. So yeah, stay away from Odesa for that point of view. Tongue in cheek. Of course, I met Angela here, so I can't say. And many other girls who I featured on the channel down the years who I had relationships with. Although Angela is not from Odesa, she's from near to Mykolaiv. In Mykolaiv Oblast, wasn't since. So she came here for university. But if you're asking where I would go, so it's a single guy, where would I go? But I speak Ukrainian okay at this point. I'll say A2, B1 level. I understand probably better than I can speak, because guys understand a lot of stuff from Russian already, and I speak Russian, but that's not so useful anymore, not like it used to be. It's got to have enough nightlife. I thought Lviv was good, even though there are more foreigners there. Kyiv probably would be the best. I would say Kyiv, which is a big city, a lot going on still. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Kharkiv. I just haven't been since 2021, so I can't really comment. Or Zaporizhzhia or Dnipro. I've been to Chernovtsi, Kyiv, Odesa, Lviv, Uzhhorod, Mukachevo, so in Zakarpatskaya Oblast. Just there wasn't so much nightlife in Uzhhorod. I will probably go there because I have a friend there, a businessman who lives there now, who's a foreigner, and yeah, I'd like to go out and party with him a bit and see what it's like. So maybe next year sometime. But I'm optimistic about 2026 from a Ukrainian point of view. I think we just got to get through several deadlines without some sort of collapse, which would be unexpected, or suddenly them signing some capitulation deal. So the first kind of milestone is 31st of January. That's when the nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize of 2026 close. That's a big incentive, from what we can understand, from Donald Trump, to try and force the Ukrainians to sign some sort of deal. Is that he feels like it'll improve his chance of getting the Nobel Peace Prize. So that's the first deadline to overcome or to pass. Then we got the Hungarian elections before April. They got to be held in April at the latest. and we'll see if Viktor Orban stays on or if he's replaced, and the opposition candidate, if he's successful, will be pro-Ukrainian and not pro-Russian. I like Viktor Orban. This will definitely help on the EU level and prevent Orban from blocking the EU process, which, you know, at every twist and turn of this, every other member state has basically a veto, so he's holding stuff up at the moment for both Moldova and Ukraine, so also good for Moldova that he gets replaced. And then we got, in the summer, the primaries are held for the midterms, and Donald Trump in the past has had a huge amount of influence on running candidates against incumbents in the Republican Party who don't agree with what he says. So he'll still have influence up to then. After that, his influence is likely to be on a pretty steep decline. And yeah, at the moment it looks like probably the Democrats will regain control of the House. And that means that he can only really rule by executive order going forward, or you can you're going to push things through that the Democrats don't agree with through executive order, which is going to really limit his power. That's a scenario that looks pretty likely, but we're a long way away. That again would be good for Ukraine, and there's only so much he can do to help Russia at that point. And he may even just change his mind and do a 180 and flip-flop again. So I see a lot of complaints about prices in Bukovel. Is this normal Ukrainian whinging? Did you see how rich prices are this year? No, I think the prices are the same as they were in 2021, basically. The thing in Bukovel is the restaurants are owned by only a few groups, the bars, the restaurants. And the prices there are double, I guess. It's up in the mountains, it's a ski resort. I was there only once, I think it was 2017 maybe I went. I filmed it, I don't think I kept that vlog up because it was pretty bad. The way I did it myself, I wasn't experienced at filming, and I also did my own editing, but the quality was poor, so I don't have that vlog up, I'm pretty sure. I may actually go skiing. I did hurt myself in the gym about a month ago, but now I'm almost better from it. I think by next week it'll be fully better, and then I sprained my ankle 2 weeks ago, but that's already improving. It's not really a big issue anymore. So yeah, I need to make sure I'm fully fit, but I was thinking of going picking up my skis and doing a week in Bukovel, because I'm possibly free for Ukraine, which most of you, everything works in terms of your cards, changing money, internet on your phone, what else is there? Credit cards, ATMs. We do have curfew from midnight to 5 a.m. And we have, obviously, you're aware of Russian rocket attacks, which are hard to predict. We also have electricity outages that are less than 50% of the time. And here there are generators in all the cafes and stuff. It's more when you're at home, it's an issue. Maybe there's an issue with the water in some places, not in my apartment, or with the heating in my apartment, so I'm not sure what it's like elsewhere. As for the war negotiations update, I said I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to agree to any deal. I don't think Putin will sign one, and I don't think Zelensky will sign one. I think that is going to be the case for many, many, many more months. I am more optimistic about 2026 than I was about 2025 in terms of a resolution of the war, or at least a temporary cessation of hostilities. I would be really optimistic about 2027 if it doesn't happen in 2026. Anything else that I had on the agenda for today that I should summarize? Safety, lifestyle, and yeah, the alternatives. Winter time, we got great Christmas markets. I'll do another live stream in 3 weeks maybe. So we got a lot of them in Romania actually. We got good Christmas markets in Craiova in the south, in Bucharest, in Sibiu in the mountains, and actually Iași has one as well. And yeah, I might be up to Chișinău. I think that's one of the things pre-Christmas that makes it nice. Someone sent me a list of best cities for Christmas. And the first thing it is, I googled the authors. And I was like, do I have anything in common with these two women? Or are they women that I might want to meet? And the answer was no. So I said, listen, this list is not worth me reading. Because it really depends on who compiled the list. We all have different preferences and tastes. And I just don't see why. They had a lot of places where it was warm, like going to Puerto Rico or Medellin. It's like, no. You need Christmas market, snow, Glühwein or mulled wine. So Riga is going to be good. Old Town, I like it. Tallinn, very nice one in Estonia. Let's see in this region. Romanian ones are now pretty renowned. Ukrainian ones, obviously, it's a bit limited because we had a war. Chisinau, it was not amazing, Chisinau, but still good to go to once. And anywhere else that I hang out in the region. The Polish ones, maybe I've been to them, I don't remember. Yes, yeah, they were nice. Maybe not particularly special compared to being in Germany or parts of France or the Netherlands. I mean, they're kind of a little bit similar with their own national flavor. I'll just pull up the Q&A again. I had to tell you that word list. You should get out of there, man. Why are you living? Well, why am I living in Ukraine? Because I help guys with doing business here quite a bit and lifestyle here still. I had the biggest channel for this country for lifestyle as a foreigner back in 2022. And at least we're living a high quality lifestyle. And the bottom line is I make informed, calculated decisions. Not based on feelings, but based on hard data backed up on empirical experience. So in the beginning, first of all, I was in the city by the border 10 days before the invasion happened because I made a correct assessment. I'd actually gotten that intel that the US government released. I got it a few days early. So I was already, because I was in Zaporizhia, I didn't even consider going to Mariupol. And I went back to Odesa to collect my stuff, took Angela, and we went to Chernovtsi because then I knew, okay, in this contingency, we can be out of the country in a few hours. On day 2, when we tried to leave, it was actually not so quick getting out, but we managed it, right? We got to Bucharest in the early hours of the morning on day 3, I guess. So when I look at it, with my experience, I came back, even within a few weeks to Ukraine. We went to Zakopatski Oblast because I wanted to deliver some aid, and I didn't want to send it from outside in case it got stopped at customs, and also some things for some soldiers who were fighting on the front. So I came to Mukechevo, and I was able to post that to them quicker, send it to them quicker. And then I got used to, air alerts, bombings, whatever. And there was obviously a lot more confusion. We were all led to believe Ukraine was going to collapse because almost everybody said that. It was only after 3 weeks I realized, hey, this doesn't make sense. Again, because I analyzed the information we have at hand. And yeah, just on a statistical basis, not unduly dangerous to be here. Oh, super. Yeah. All right, so we have this pastry. And okay, this is a bit different from what I was expecting. But there you see it's filled with egg. There's some green stuff. I'm not sure what this green stuff is. I guess it's not parsley. Egg. I guess there's. Maybe I need to look at the menu before. Maybe I just eat it and tell you what's in it. This is Plăcintă. So stuffed with egg, some vegetables, and yeah, it's pastry. And for the long term, I remain committed to spending lots of time in Ukraine, and I look forward to when we don't have a war and this country absolutely thriving economically. And just being here now, I also get a lot of first mover effect in helping guys with business, so investment is also pretty interesting. As I said, I'm doing this one indoors, show you what the atmosphere is like here in Mama Liha, a Bessarabian restaurant in the heart of Odesa. Enjoying this super delicious Ukrainian food, Bessarabian cuisine, on a Sunday evening in Odesa Mama in November 2025. Okay, I don't see any further questions. and comments. I'll give it another 20 seconds. I'll just eat another bite of this delicious Plăcintă. I'm not the guy to talk to about investing in the stock market. All right, I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna enjoy my food. I see my friend is over there. Or did he just leave in the meantime? Maybe he didn't see me. Ah, he did just leave. All right, I'll write him and see if he's far away. So, on that note, I wish you also a very pleasant evening. I'm gonna enjoy my food. Probably hang out with some friends. I think I'll order a glass of Bessarabian wine, either from Odesa Oblast or from Moldova, and see what's on the menu, and maybe another tea. Where to spend New Year's Eve in Ukraine this year? Maybe Lviv. It's always good. I've been there a few times, so that would be my recommendation. It's the easiest to get to, or you come here to Odesa. In any case, much noho to me. Bon appetit. I'm gonna enjoy this, and more content coming on the channel. Gonna have the vlogs eventually from Warsaw, from the fashion shows, and from Chisinau in the summer. A few other videos. Also one about traveling here in Ukraine in 2025. And yeah, stay safe. Touch wood and everything. If you come here to Ukraine, if you are interested in coming, I'd write me an email. Connor@connorklein.com. It's down below in the description. Invest in my consulting. I have the guidebook. My in-person experience. You want to come like my client did in August. I have my guidance with you over a decade here. Former lawyer for the EU institutions. I have a background in international relations. Specialization in this region. If you're interested in investing, I have a program that's going to start pretty soon down below as well for that. Go check it out. And I will say, as written on my t-shirt emblazoned here, Slava Ukraini, Rom Slava, і до перемоги. Гарного вечора, до побачення.